Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This week's show, we're talking about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Witch Watch Season 1, Episode 8. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So, Khan doesn't have the money necessary to pay for his portion of the living expenses because he continues to blow his money on frivolous stuff. The fact is that I brought this up last episode with the whole YouTube thing. I thought that was one of the main reasons why Khan was pushing to do like online content just to get paid. I thought it was to kind of compensate so they'd have their own, he'd have his own income, but they never brought that up like that episode, but I wondered if that played a role in it. But yeah, like Maury's just kind of like, yo, you're going to have to get a part-time job. And it's the worst thing for Khan because he's like, oh my God, it feels like I'm going to have to like become an adult now if I get a part-time job. But yeah, he gets a job at like for a show. Basically, it's a live performance at like I don't know if it's a fair or whatever the place is. He's putting on this kind of like Sentai performance, and he has to be the Sentai hero, Automan. And it's like, all right, because he was just going to be one of the characters, but because he proved to be super athletic and the current actor for Automan couldn't do it, like the one that's actually transformed into suit doing the more acrobatic stuff couldn't do it, Khan ended up getting the gig. And then we get a breakdown of Automan, and you're just kind of like, because even Khan is like, wait, what's going on here? We're diving into this guy's boring life and that's so interesting because there's deep layers to that. First and foremost, it's like any superhero thing. Some people are like, a comparison would be like Superman. It's like, oh, I only care about the Superman stuff. I don't care about the Clark Kent stuff. But it's like, yo, you need both sides of it. That's what makes the character interesting and dynamic. But for Khan, it's like, no. Like, what is him having a boring life, like talking to his wife, or rather not talking to his wife? What does that have to do with? So it's kind of almost like this slice of life thing. It's almost like, yes, it's action-packed thing, but it also has this very like dry, dramatic element to it. It's almost like two different genres put together. It's like, oh, you got this high action superhero Sentai thing, but then you also got this like slice of like drama thing. And so it's like, oh, like the next sequence is him getting on a train. Well, he wants to sit on a train, so he's going to let the first train go by. And even Khan's like, are we really letting this boring scene play out? And then he gets on the next train, but he's still standing. It's like, he's standing regardless. And then he goes to work. But this is where Khan starts getting invested into the plot. He's like, oh, this is actually interesting because he has a coworker who was a friend of his, but she actually likes him. And you're like, oh, I was like, wow, are we really doing this? This is supposed to be like, well, the director says it's a show that's popular with both the moms and kids. What's it called? Like Automan Working Dad or something like that. But even Khan's like, oh, so it's not reaching out to the dads, but like now looking at the story, he's like, oh, it makes so much sense why like some of this would register for kids, but also the moms, because it's almost like a regular drama. So the moms appreciate it, but there's a little bit of action bits in it, so kids appreciate it, and dads won't appreciate certain elements of the story. So it's really fascinating. But yeah, like it's at first I was almost like, yo, this is supposed to almost be like a family kids show, and I'm like, are we gonna do an affair storyline because him and his wife aren't like connecting, and then at the same time he's connecting with this coworker who's like, you've been here a short amount of time, and it's like, oh my God, is something going to spark between them? And then it turns out she's actually the villain. I was like, wait, what? Plot twist. So now Khan has to step into play, but he's not supposed to beat up the bad guy because the bad guy is supposed to bark out orders, so he has to deal with the henchman first. So that all works out. And then we get to the other plot element of it. Because he was late for work, he got chewed out for his boss. By the time he comes home, it turns out it's actually him and his wife's anniversary, and he didn't remember it. And Automan becomes an Ottoman, and she literally puts her feet on him, and that's kind of how the story ends. I'm like, that's such a weird thing for what is essentially a family kids show. I'm like, that's so weird. And that's where Khan was like, no wonder dads super aren't into this show. That's so crazy. I love that. I was like, that is, And I'm sure that's the thing of like that something weird like that probably isn't out of the realm of possibility in Japan. Like I don't think we would like we get weird shows here in the US, but nothing to that degree. Like especially when it's something in the guise of a Sentai show to throw in those other elements is so weird, but it's meant to, I don't know. There's probably other series like that. Like I said, like there might be anime, manga, but might even be live action things that are like that. I've never seen the non-Sentai parts of a Sentai show. Like obviously I've seen it like Power Rangers wise, like the regular like human lives elements of it, but I've never actually seen what that looks like in like regular Japanese like shows like a Kamen Rider or just any Sentai show. I've never seen what the regular life elements have looked like. I only know that from the perspective of like, the US perspective, and that's what Power Rangers are. It's just interesting I've never thought about. But either way, Khan ends up meeting the guy who actually plays the Ottoman actor, and it turns out he sprained his ankle during training and stuff, and so he ends up playing the villain. But his son was super happy because, like, for him, it's like this is his dad's first role as a superhero, and Khan knows what it's like to have your father be your hero. But it's like the moment they kind of let you down a little bit, it's almost like you see like that image of them being this like hero like kind of dims a little bit, and he's like, oh, he thinks about his dad and his presence and stuff. So because of that, Khan wants to help him out. And it's like Morihito overhears this and is kind of proud of Khan doing that. Because it's like, yeah, he might be lazy, might splurge on his money, but he has a good personality and a good heart. And so he puts on a great performance, making sure the dad shines. Because he was like, make sure you tell your son that you are Ottoman. And every time he got hit by like a cushion kick or a cushion punch, Khan would probably be using his wind powers to send himself flying, and made it such a great show. Granted, neither one of them got paid for it because they didn't follow the script, so it was a moot point. But at the end of the day, that son is so proud of his dad, and it was kind of a beautiful moment. And even Morihito's like, all right, I'm gonna cut you some slack because you did what you did. So I'm going to push back needing payment for this month. But you're gonna owe me double next month. And Khan is like, oh, I got this, no problem. Next month comes around. Now he has to serve as an Ottoman for Morihito. Like, okay, here's Khan's next job. It's the second half of the episode. His part-time job is like packaging screws, like first in little plastic bags, but there's a crap ton of them, and he's gotten bored with it because he's like, because it's such a monotonous job, and he's just like, I'm going insane. I tried watching a movie, but I kept with the same screw, and then try to do the screw things while I'm doing other stuff. But the Morihito's like, yeah, you sat there and watched a movie, didn't you? So he wants a 10-time spell. Well, he wants a speedster spell from Nico, and she's like, okay, but there are downsides to it. This can go from like, what was the speed? It went from like something up to 10%, the 10 times speed, sorry. And she's like, oh, here are the drawbacks. One, the spell cannot be canceled. You have to wait for it to run out, and it runs out in 3 days. I forgot what the second one was, and the third one was like, basically after the spell is done, you're going to basically have like a literal mental breakdown after that 10 times speed, because it's just too much for the person to handle, so you're going to have a mental breakdown. I'm trying to remember what the second one was. Damn, I'm so upset because I'm blanking on what the second one was. But Khan's like, all right, it's fine, it's whatever. Because as the show says, the narrator says, Khan's the type to at first think later. And so with the 10 times speed, he thinks like, yeah, this is so awesome. But then immediately we see the backlash, because for him, he's moving at 10 times speed, but to him, the world is moving at 0.1 times speed. So it's like, cool. Because what he was looking for was kind of like that remote fast forward feature in Click. He was looking for something like that, kind of like a fast forward feature, but this is a grueling hell. This is like speedster hell on crack, because he can't understand anybody, and like he can't have a conversation because he's talking at 10 times speed, so no one can understand him. They're speaking and moving in 0.1 times speed, and so he can't understand them. In fact, they're creeping him out with their movements because it's all like big and slow movements. So but then he realizes, like, even while he's doing his work, it seems like normal speed to him, because it feels like the world outside of him is moving, like he's moving normal speed where everything else around him is moving 0.1%. So it's just like, you poor bastard. He's like, I've been sitting here, it had been like 30 minutes, but in actuality, it had only been like 10 minutes or something like that. And so time is moving so slow, and it's just like the issues he had before he was 10 times faster still apply in this situation. So he still isn't really getting the job necessarily done. And the sad thing is, he is a very social dude, and that aspect has been completely removed because he can't communicate with anyone and they can't communicate with him. He can write stuff down to talk to them, but it's just kind of like he has to wait around for them to respond. So it's just like, it's living hell. Once again, the crazy things about speedsters, like, you watch enough like DC and Flash stuff, you recognize like, wow, like what speedsters are capable of and what life is like for them. Kind of makes me think of that Red Rush conversation from the first episode of Invincible, if you've seen it. Yeah, so I just thought that was so interesting. I was like, wow, we dealt with something so crazy with the first episode, the plot of like that Ottoman show, and now like you have this like kind of depressing angle to it, and it's really heartbreaking because the thing is, it's supposed to only last for 3 days, which is still a lot. That's 72 hours. But then you also add in, it's actually 10 times as longer because of Khan's perspective. And so rather than 3 days, it's more like 30 days for him because of the way time moves. You're like, oh, that's excruciating. It's like a month of solitude. And yes, he's living with everyone, but he can't interact with them. He's interacting with them at like a second a time. Like one point he goes up to Mori and then he cries for like 3 seconds and then immediately leaves. Or he steps in front of him for like a half second, says something, and then moves on. And it's just because he can't wait around because it's going to take forever for you to respond, even the smallest thing. You can't understand me. I can't understand you. It's kind of a moot point. You kind of felt bad for him. And because 30 minutes is like 5 hours for him, he ends up having to he's burning through a lot more food, having to wash his clothes because he's staying in them technically longer. So Morihito had to buy him more underwear and stuff like that. I even love the gag at the end, the little interstitial setup for the next episode. They were like, oh yeah, like basically buy me new underwear. It's like, well, no, they're fine. He's like, no. The moment your crotch touched my underwear, I can never wear them again. So you're gonna have to get me new underwear. I love that. But yeah, it's a really depressing angle to it, and you're just like, wow, this is. And Morihito would check in on him when he's sleeping, but he's just laying there staring at his little like shrine that he's put together to try and, I guess, have something to focus on, some normalcy. And it's just like, yeah, he just goes in his room, comes out, eats, and then you just go back in. Like there's nothing to do, and just it's sadness on all sides. There was a moment, I can't remember what it was. Nico was thinking something. Morihito was like, no, don't think about it. It's too sad. You're just like, Jesus. Look, eventually they bring Kigo over, and it's like day 2 or something. So it's been like 20 days for him. And Kigo's like, hey, I'll record his voice with this, and then we'll play it slower. That way we can actually have a conversation with him. But then Khan comes out, and it turns out he's been practicing his slow speech. So he's learning how to speak slowly so that he can have a conversation with them. He's also learned how to scoot. So now, instead of like moving really fast, he's scooting super fast, but that's how he's making sure to walk normally. And so for the next 10 days, they made it work for like, and they were all able to be around each other. Like, oh, that's sweet, that's cute. Because I mean, I'd assume this is a weekend or whatever, because I was like, I guess we never really had to deal with, because it would have been interesting to see what that was like at a school setting, but we only saw it at the house setting. So not unless he just wasn't at school some of those days, which is kind of extra sad. I guess there'd be no difference, I guess I was about to say, like if he was in the house by himself, because he couldn't really interact with them, but at least knowing they're in the house is better than being like, well, they're going for hours on end at school and I have to wait for them to get back to at least see them, even if I can't really interact with them. But yeah, but when it's all said and done, after making it work, the 10 days are up, and it's like, yeah, he's back to normal, but he's talking slowly because like, whoa, you guys are scaring me. You're talking too fast, as they said, and he's got speed lag. So I was like, oh God. I guess that also plays into, he's like, oh my God, I'm about to go insane. And I guess that's supposed to be like the repercussion that Nico was talking about, was like your body readjusting to like normal speed again. I mean, it probably would have been, well, it probably wouldn't been as bad if he hadn't practiced slow speaking and doing everything slowly. Now his body has to readjust to doing things normally. You probably still would have had that adjustment period, even if he hadn't learned how to slow down, especially because he had been practicing for so long, and then he also did it for like 10 extra days on top of that. But yeah, just kind of a wild set of situations in an episode. I'm interested to see what other shenanigans we end up in going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.